of the news of the 2026 event, only hosting 10 sports, with sports such as badminton, rugby sevens, and even hockey getting scrapped from the games. On Kincoid campus today, Cardiff Met has launched the new programme Arch Her, which aims to create an equal environment for women to play sport by equipping its students and workforce with a deeper understanding of the female body. In Bucks Rugby, the men's rugby first team travel to Nottingham today for their 5th Bucks Super Rugby game of the season, looking to continue their form after beating Leeds Beckett last Wednesday. In women's basketball, East London University are the opposition for the women's basketball first team today, and Kira Stewart aims to bounce back from their defeat in the Super League on Saturday. And in Bucks football, despite being knocked out of the National MG Cup on Monday, Cardiff Met's Buck first team travel to Bath today, looking to bounce back from the defeat, which will include a few names from that squad that played against Cardiff City on Monday night.
Okay, a very warm welcome to Cardiff Met Sport TV Radio. That was the 1:30 news read by Cam Melly. First of all, we've got a very special guest in the house alongside Will Richards and Cam Melly and myself, Alex Simon. James Thie, how are you doing?
I'm really good, guys. Thanks very much for having me.
No worries. So you're a Welsh middle distance runner turned coach and lecturer. I had the pleasure of you lecturing me a couple of years ago. You probably don't remember.
I remember every student I teach, absolutely.
But we hear you've got an exciting adventure coming up in New York. Tell us a little bit about what's on the horizon.
Yeah, so a coach, an athlete, but so I still run into my late 40s, and I've decided it's probably another kind of midlife crisis to tackle another marathon. But I've done a lot of commentary on the big marathons around the world, so that's been my excuse for not running them. And this year I'm not working the New York City Marathon, so I figured that I better get myself out to the Big Apple. So a week Sunday, I'll be running around the 5 boroughs of New York.
And marathon running and going abroad and that sort of subject has become big over the last few years.
Yeah,
right?
no, marathon tourism and even half marathon tourism, and it's we're in the midst of a second running boom. They talk about the first running boom was back in the 80s, but now running is seen a lot more popular. We thought there might be a bit of a spike post COVID where everyone became Strava champions of their own street and their lockdown runs, but there's a real buzz. Numbers in mass participation running's going through the roof. You only have to look at our local park run down near our Llandaff campus, and they're getting over 1,000 runners there on a Saturday morning. Bushy Park, I think, recently celebrated its 10 years of park run. I think it got 6,000 runners running 5 kilometres. So there's a market for people just running 5 kilometres, but going and travelling the world and going to see in another country and maybe sampling the sounds and sights of another big city. It's really popular right now.
Perfect. And in Cardiff Met football, they've had a very, very busy few weeks. Cardiff Met unfortunately lost 3-2 to the under-21s on Monday nights in the Cup. So we can hear from Barnaby Sodhi about the hectic schedule over the last 2 weeks.
Yeah, I think we go through all the video, so there's always reflection. But like you said, it's so fast paced that you are you got to wipe the slate clean and go again, whether you win or lose. So Friday night was great, but we would have loved to have followed that up with another result yesterday.
So the men's play Bath today at 2 p.m. Bath currently sat second, Cardiff Met 5th with only 1 point so far. Here in the studio with us is Harrison Jones, fan and media team of Cardiff Met, talking about today's fixture. Harrison, how important is today's game for the rest of the season?
Well, it's against varsity rivals Bath, so it's quite an important fixture, not just for football, but for every fan in general of Cardiff Met. But I think Cardiff Met haven't scored this season, which is a massive problem going in the attack, but we haven't also won a game. So I think a win is really needed today. I think you've had an interview with Jake Morris and Barney Sodhi recently, and I think a win is needed to proper kickstart this season.
That's it. And obviously a serious amount of football over the last 2 weeks for some of the players. Are we expected to see some fresh legs on the pitch today?
So the lineup has been announced, but I think with the Cardiff Met team, there's a few faces where they make the first team, but we've also got players that play within the JD Cymru Premier, the JD Cymru South, and it's a mixture of players who don't play for Met but also play for Met at the same time. But there's a few faces who have made some of the who have played on the Monday game who are playing today.
So how are the lads obviously bouncing back from a real busy 2 weeks and a tough loss on Monday night? Has that been a tough process for them, would you say, or is it all eyes ahead on the next game?
Yeah, we've got a game this Friday against Newtown now, but I think it's been hard for some of the players. It's been lucky where we've had CJ Craven, who was suspended in the league, but he can play with in the cup games, so that was easier for some of the players. But I think it gives some of the Bucks lads some time in the first team, which they've had limited options, limited time available, which is good for the gaffer to put them into the team.
And obviously, like you mentioned just then, there's a lot of different competitions. For someone from an outside perspective who's trying to follow the Cardiff Met football, or like get a little bit more into it, do you reckon you could just give us a lowdown on kind of what each different competition is, the difference between Bucks and Premier League, and obviously Monday was a cup game, but then it was 4 games in 9 days, all in different competitions.
So I'll give this perspective for the cup competitions for the first team. The MG Cup is like a Carabao Cup for the English leagues, where you won't qualify for Europe stage, but it's a competition you can just win. The Welsh Cup is like the FA Cup. You can qualify for Europe via that competition. I think there's a lot more teams lower down in the pyramid, so you could have a 7th tier team play against TNS, which is like the FA Cup a little bit there. Within Bucks, it's mostly student-led teams, so you won't have players such as Elliot Evans, but even though he is the gaffer, you'd have just specifically students. They can play from, like I previously discussed, they've got players from Barry, Town Player, and you've got players who are just specifically just students. And then within the first team, you've got the General League season, where it's a mixture of 12 teams all across Wales. We're just completing phase 1. Before then, it goes to a top 6 and bottom 6. The bottom 6 battle out for relegation, and then the top 6 try and fight out for Europe, which I believe the top 2 can qualify for Europe. And then, let's just say it's a bit after that, then it gets a bit more complex. But yeah, for all the 4 competitions, it's good for that we've progressed within the Welsh Cup. It's a shame we got knocked out of the MG Cup, but it gives a lot of students opportunities to play.
That's it. So obviously, looking at the game today and next week, at that point in the season, halfway through, is there any relegation worries coming through, or is it all eyes on today?
I think Barney. I read that Barney about this. Yeah, I don't want us to say relegation because in my first year I suffered relegation. I watched the relegation, but yeah, I think they need to get that win right now. They're probably kicking off as we speak. A win is really needed just to properly kickstart. I think it's a battle between all the top 6 teams in the league, and Bath is probably the one we could try and say is the weak link because we did beat them in varsity last year.
And just shifting leagues and perspectives onto Cardiff City, they've obviously had a good couple of last games and sort of forgotten about that drought that they went on at the start of the season. From a managerial perspective, how pleased as a fan are you, Harrison, with the last couple of games, and where do you see his career going? Is he going to stay at the club, and continue on?
Like I said, he's going to leave the club. I hope he doesn't leave the club.
For your sake, I hope he doesn't.
For my sake, I hope he doesn't leave the club. I think he's had a great start. I think the first game was a 4-1 defeat. I think he was just probably saying about the XG in that game where we did take the lead and we conceded 4. After that, we've been, you could say, demolishing in some of the games with wins against Plymouth and last night against Portsmouth. I think it's too early to give him the role now. I think you need to wait on a little bit and probably wait until the next international break, which I think's next month. So he's got 4 matches to properly prove if he gets the job or not. And I think it's been said that he does want the job prior, even though he's got a few fashion senses from the last 3 or 4 matches. I think he's trying to. I think the fans want him. I want him for sure. But I think he does. I think he does want that job, and it'll be an admirable job for a lot of people.
So you're fully Omar Reza in?
Yeah, Maurice are in. I'm trying to think of a way, like, it's not reasonable now. We're trying to find a different way to say it.
Definitely hope you do keep him, because then you won't go after the Reading manager. So definitely hope you keep him. Right, so moving on, we've got the Met Rugby.
Thanks, Harrison. Cheers, Harrison.
Another big game today. Got Nottingham, 5th game of the season, and Met are looking to continue the good form after a close call against Leeds Beckett. Leeds have lost every game of the season, but Cardiff ended up winning 40-35, and they currently moved them up to 4th in the table. We can hear from the captain, Ben Murphy, now.
In the end, felt a little bit disappointing, really. We were so on it the first half, and then at the start of the second half, and then just all of a sudden we lost that edge. So it was disappointing, really, in a way. We should be being more professional in the way that we see out that game. It's a full 80-minute performance, and we didn't give that. But at the end of the day, 5 points is 5 points, so we'll take that. I think the weather's actually meant to be pretty good for tomorrow against Nottingham, and the pitch is quite nice. We've played on it before. I don't think it will be too much of an issue playing on grass pitch. The weather's good, so we can still play our brand of rugby. So we're still pretty confident going into that game. Yeah, it's definitely motivating. It shows you that people who go to Met can go on to achieve great things, and we are in the same place with the same facilities, if not better, at the moment. So it shows you that we can all do it. It's definitely motivating. So yeah.
So as we said, Cardiff Met have moved up to 4th in the table, and they played Nottingham today, who is currently 7th. This is a massive game for Met. Like the top 4 teams, only 3 points separate them. Exeter lead the table. Loughborough ends in 2nd. Bath, who unfortunately defeated Cardiff Met a couple of weeks ago, sit in 3rd, and we are in 4th. It's a great chance, really, isn't it, to move up and continue the good form. Although the season's been a little bit disappointing, even though they beat Cardiff Uni quite comfortably in the Cardiff clashes, need a little bit more consistency, you'd say, wouldn't it?
Yeah, as you said, Ben Murphy was saying yesterday that today is a fantastic opportunity for them to push up that table and really just put themselves in a fantastic position for that second half of the season, building up to Christmas.
Yeah, I was really impressed with the way Ben spoke about his team and obviously captaining the side this year and how he's not, it's not all about him and what he does as a captain. It's more about how he can help the others develop. And we asked a little bit at the end of the press conference about, the autumn internationals coming up and how some of those selected were once an Archer and how he isn't really focused on that. He's focused on the Met team and how they're going to do. They will develop after that may or may not come. But for now, they're focused on Nottingham and how they can improve against them.
That's it. And in the last few years, you've really started to sense a feel of a family of the rugby team. And you see that on a Wednesday building up to games. Obviously, the fans there, the players that aren't involved in that game, still there supporting. And it looks as if it's only going up. So best of luck to them for the rest of the season.
Absolutely. And moving swiftly on to a bit of basketball coverage. Now, we've had a new student, Kira, join us on the course a little bit later than us a few weeks ago, but she's moved over from Spain in a Spanish basketball league and is now competing for us in the Welsh League. I think we've got a little soundbite from her, so let's hear from Kira.
Most definitely coming into a new league, they're definitely more physical. And that's something that I had to adjust to for our first game. Definitely different because our players are smaller than the team that we played against, the Hatters. So I think just the biggest thing was the language barrier and the physicality within the game. Pretty good. We've had about a few practices within me being here for only 1 week. So honestly, it's just a continuance of getting to know each other, getting to know each other's strengths and weaknesses and what we can get better at, and just overall getting better as a whole. Yes, so we definitely need to improve on our ball pressure as far as handling it. We got stuck a lot on just turning the ball over in the mid-court, backcourt, and then they got a lot of points off of our turnovers. So I think that's something, just taking care of the ball throughout the game, keeping the ball in our possession would make a difference of an impact within the game, because I feel like that would take away those points and it's a totally different game.
Yeah, so all the best to Kira. Great to hear from her there. And we believe she's playing East London away today. So all the best to the women's basketball team. Time now for the news. Welcome to the Cardiff Met Sport TV radio news at 1:30. My name's Alex Hyman. Champions League group stages continued last night across Europe with the new format in action. 6 years to the day after they lost to Norwich City in the Championship, Aston Villa topped the Champions League table following a 2-0 defeat of Bologna. Goals came from John McGinn and John Duran. Arsenal were helped to a 1-0 win against Shakhtar Donetsk after an own goal from Dimitro Rizink in the 29th minute at the Emirates. The Gunners now sit in 4th. Now, Welsh football fans have had a busy few days. Cardiff City have made a really positive turnaround to the season. They beat Portsmouth 2-0 at home last night. Midfielder David Turnbull spoke to us after the game.
He's gives a kind of style of football that the boys want to play, and he's wanting us to play, and it's good to get that style there, and everybody knows what they're doing to a man, and it suits the boys because the way most of us play is kind of good football, good in the eye, and it's working so far. So no, it's been brilliant.
Goalless draws for Swansea away at Sheffield Wednesday and Wrexham against Huddersfield, while Newport County defeat Gillingham 2-0 on the road. And in cricket, England face Pakistan in their final match of the Test series. England have opted to pick 3 spinners over an extra seamer. The series is currently tied at 1-1. Okay, that was the news. And now back in the studios, pass the baton from Harrison back to James. Something you're used to is a bit of relay, isn't it? But sort of moving on from our conversation earlier, obviously marathon running is not going to be in the Commonwealth Games. Obviously Glasgow has just been announced as the host, as expected over the last few weeks. It won't be Victoria. Your thoughts on marathon running not being in it? You know, give us some thoughts on that.
Yeah, it's been a pretty dramatic week for the Commonwealth Games. Obviously, we're celebrating the fact that games are taking place. There was big worry that there would be no Commonwealth Games in 2026. So the fact it is taking place, we breathe a sigh of relief. But then there was the unknown of which events would be included, or sports, I should say, because your sport being included first, and obviously track and field are there, so huge celebrations, and then to find out marathon running isn't in the games, there's a tinge of disappointment. But when you look across at other sports, like track cycling that have no road cycling either in the games, and rugby sevens, hockey. That these are sports that have been stalwarts of the Commonwealth Games that we would have expected to be there. The fact they're not, I'm just grateful track and field's still in there.
And things like hockey, for example, which is a huge sport here on Cardiff Met's campus. I know a fact of a couple of the girls that have played here and have now moved on to the Welsh women's squad. They're gutted that they can't compete for Wales. Where does that leave them in terms of mindset and going forward? Because that had been such a big goal for them in 2 years. How do they move forward from this? It's
really tough because as a Welsh athlete, in certain Welsh sports, they're the only opportunity to represent on the global stage Wales. And if that's taken away, then funding pathways will get taken away. The structure of the sport that below it then falls a bit away as well, because that goal, that carrot of competing for Wales in the Commonwealth Games, that's not there anymore. So there's sports that are going to really struggle. As I said, we've got athletes that would have been potential marathon runners on a Welsh programme that's gone now. So they've either got to think about running a bit faster over 10,000 metres, but that's probably not their event. So it changes the dynamics of funding. Welsh sport, I think we're going to see a shift, a change in just the way that we structure and we fund sport. But we've got to hope maybe in 2030 that there's a return of what we know as the larger scale Commonwealth Games.
Yeah, so James, obviously you were there in 2014 in Glasgow. Is there any bit of advice you could give to people travelling there? Obviously the reduction in sport, but people still going out there. Can you tell us a little bit about what it's like as a sport hub for that few weeks period?
Yeah, home games are phenomenal. 2014, I was saying to Joe off air, travelling up there, got off the plane. I didn't think we were still in Glasgow, and the whole time in Glasgow there was such a buzz, there was so much energy. It was just a phenomenally well delivered Commonwealth Games. And then we cast our mind back to Birmingham 2022. We were getting 30,000 people watching just a pole vault qualifying competition. I think it was pole vault for men's decathlon. Just watching that, and I remember being in the stadium thinking, if we could only just capture and bottle some of this for the rest of the athletic season or next season. But again, there's an appetite in the UK for the Commonwealth Games. I still think there's an appetite in the Commonwealth countries for the Commonwealth Games, but finance and delivering major events and the cost and potential implications to countries and their finance, that's what's been the big issue, and that's why countries have pulled away. So hopefully Glasgow can save it, and hopefully some Commonwealth Games countries could look at it and go, do you know what, this is something worth saving.
And if I can just quickly jump in then, why do you think it's not financially viable, like in this day and age? And also I kind of wanted to know as well, what makes the Commonwealth so special? What makes these games so different from anything else? It's
got history. Obviously, there's amazing nations that take place and take part in the Commonwealth Games, but there's also events that are challenging it. Obviously, in athletics, you've got World Championships, you've got the Olympic Games. Obviously, are the main big goal every 4 years, and it is often about momentum. And we seem to have lost a bit of momentum with it also going around the Commonwealth countries, and obviously that then means that sponsors are less likely to get involved. There's obviously a nervousness with governments to support it as well. Obviously, there's a cost of living crisis around the globe as well. So we're not the only people that it's going to be a struggle for. But I think the fact that Scotland have stepped up. I still say that if we deliver the Commonwealth Games in Cardiff, how unbelievably fantastic and amazing, and what a legacy. And if anyone could find the finance, whether that was privately, whether that was crowd raising funding, so we'd have a massive say in it as a university here at Cardiff Met. But how amazing would a Commonwealth Games in Cardiff be?
Absolutely. God, it would be amazing, wouldn't it? Actually, one of the fellas from yesterday I was speaking to said, why doesn't the royal family put some money into it and host? And I thought, actually, that's a good point. And maybe that's a discussion for another time because we don't have too much longer. But James Thie, thank you so much for joining us. And we'll see you very soon around on campus.
Absolute pleasure, and good luck to all the teams on and off campus today. And I will give you a report back from the New York City Marathon a week Sunday.
Yeah, how did I forget? Good luck with the marathon.
Thank you, guys.
Enjoy. Thank you, James.
Thank you very much.
And so, as we say goodbye to James, we move to a slightly different sport. In the sport we all love of football, guys. Champions League, a good couple of games last night for English sides. Arsenal with the 1-0 win against Shakhtar, and Villa top the table now against Bologna. Your thoughts on the games last night? They were a great effort from the Premier League sides.
Yeah, as you said, massive night in the Champions League last night. Obviously, Arsenal and Villa both getting the wins. We also saw a massive win from Madrid, which saw them come from 2-0 down to win 5-2. And I think it's hard to say with Will here. Will, is that Vinicius Jr., is that his Ballon d'Or there, would you say?
I think so. I don't think you can really give it to anyone else at this point. I think Rodri, for me, I think overall is probably the best footballer in the world at this point. But obviously with him being injured, I don't think you can give him the award. Vinicius, obviously, scoring goals for fun, won the Champions League last year, won La Liga with Madrid as well.
26 goals and 11 assists as well.
26 goals and 11 assists, well, it says it all. So I think, for me, he's probably the number one favourite. I think you could probably include Bellingham in there after the season he's had. But, for me, I think Vinicius just takes it.
No, fantastic. And obviously, Arsenal and Villa both right at the top of that Champions League table. Obviously, just the one group now. Arsenal's currently sat fourth with 2 wins from 3, and Villa 3 from 3. So looking forward to tonight as well. Leipzig, Liverpool, City, Sparta, Barcelona, Bayern. We're in for another exciting evening of Champions League football.
Oh, can't wait. Hopefully we get done and dusted out of the studios by that time.
100%. And also, I do want to mention TNS have their first Conference League game, a first Conference League home game tomorrow against Astana. So that should be a historic night for Welsh football, that one.
And EFL results. Obviously a very good win from Cardiff last night. They're managing to turn their season around in tremendous ways, aren't they, guys?
They are. It seems like a few weeks ago we had obviously the Cardiff fans up and around us whinging about the manager and the results and saying basically a League One side. And the last 2 games haven't described that whatsoever. Obviously, was it 5-0 at the weekend?
5-0, yeah. They scored more goals in that game against Plymouth than they had the whole season.
That's a fantastic stat. And obviously 2-0 win over Portsmouth last night. Still 19th in the Championship, but fantastic opportunity with this bit of form to keep them going.
And I don't know if you guys, Cam and Will, have been to a Cardiff game recently, but for the students listening, how important is it for them to get down there? We're so close here on campus, we're, a 10-minute Uber ride away. It's a great atmosphere down there, especially now that they're starting to win.
Exactly. And obviously you kind of know how close are we to Championship football? Yeah. And we've seen with the Welsh fans in the last few weeks with the international break that despite it being a rugby renowned country, they still die hard football. So it'd be a great experience for everyone to go down. I've never personally been down, but that's something I definitely need to look into.
Yeah, I've been once a couple of years ago for Cardiff Reading. They beat us 1-0. So the least said about that, the better probably. But yeah, fantastic away day and fantastic facilities as well. Really good. And I would say that about for every kind of sporting venue here. Like make sure you get yourself down to whether it be the rugby or the cricket or the football. Cardiff's got fantastic sporting teams for you to make the most of.
Exactly, and it was in general a good night for Welsh football. No points dropped. Newport 2-0 win away to Gillingham, thanks to Baker and Hudlin both scoring, putting them 13th in the league. And Swansea and Wrexham both drawing 0-0. And obviously Wrexham probably the main talking point, staying strong, second in the league. They could be a Championship side very soon. 3
Welsh teams in a Championship. Who would have thought that a couple of years ago?
Absolutely. And I know we are hosting here at Cardiff Met Wrexham in a few months' time, so that will be an exciting way to sort of round off the year. And maybe we can get the Macohenna boys down and hopefully they can get on campus.
That's it. Exactly.
And just finishing up with a little bit of a rogue story, but one that we thought was important to mention. LeBron is a huge name in the sporting world, but he's made history with his son Bronny after they became the first father-son duo to share the court in an NBA game during the Los Angeles Lakers season opener against the Minnesota Timberwolves. Final words on that, boys. That's an incredible feat.
It's unbelievable, isn't it? I don't think, obviously, the age gap there means that you're not really going to see that too often. But I think that would have been LeBron's dream as an upcoming father. So, yeah, no, fantastic.
Definitely speaks a lot about his longevity as well, the career that he's managed to have and still be performing at the highest level with his son now. It's quite a story, to be honest.
Absolutely. Cam, Will, thank you so much for joining us in the studio. That was Cardiff Met Sport TV Radio. See you soon.